I'm Ben Silverio.
I'm Helena Handbasket.
And I'm Ansel Burch.
And it's time to party.
We are not doctors. We don't give medical advice. Please drink responsibly. This episode was recorded on February 26th, 2024.
Party people, welcome back to Time to Party. We have a very, very special episode this week because we are talking to the filmmaker behind the incredible movie Coherence, James Ward Byrkit. And we also have the phenomenal Helena Handbasket back with us.
Woo!
Hello.
Welcome, friends. So I guess we'll just dive right in with Jim here. A little backstory, because I first met him back at the 22nd Philadelphia Film Festival in 2013 after a Q&A for Coherence, where the movie was like the talk of the fest. And so now, Jim, you're celebrating its 10th anniversary with screenings all over the country. How does it feel to know that audiences are still talking about it?
It's so weird and wonderful. And
Amazing.
I'm grateful for every moment of it. It's just like a weird bonus that comes creeping up. It's like a rash that you can't get rid of, but you actually enjoy it. And it's great to scratch it, and everybody scratches it, and it's just like it's a whole rash scratching party.
And then you spread it around and people catch it.
Yeah. And then more people get it, and then they give it to their friends, and just keeps going.
It's a good metaphor.
Oh boy. Oh boy.
Ooh. Well, yeah. So from your perspective, other than a rash, what would you... I'm just kidding. But what would you say is the legacy of Coherence?
I don't know. From my own perspective, it's just a joy because it keeps going and going, and people ask me about it, and I actually enjoy talking about
Great.
it because it has such good memories. So that's lucky. You know, there's some projects that you don't want to keep talking about because you just remember all the crap that went with it. But Coherence now has entered this weird phase where instead of being talked about as like, oh, it was great that you made a micro budget movie and it wasn't terrible, it's now getting spoken about. Like every year, its reputation actually increases somehow, and so it's like appreciated as a movie now, and not just like an anomaly that we happen to pull off. And especially around up and coming filmmakers, that's where I really get it from, is that people who are making their first film, they use it to show it to their crew or show it to their cast to say this can be done. And so whenever I go to festivals, that's really what the conversation is about. It's up and coming new filmmakers that want to talk about it.
100%.
I love that.
What an incredible legacy.
Yeah.
Yeah, truly.
And so part of that legacy, you know, is definitely the process. You know, as mind-blowing as the story of Coherence itself is, the process was even more wild. If I remember correctly, it was 5 nights of shooting in your house with an improvised script based on a treatment. Am I right?
Right.
In saying that?
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
My wife was going to have a baby in the house, and I said, well, honey, I think I want to make a movie. And she's like, well, absolutely not. Like, we're having a baby.
She's like,
and,
the audacity of
yeah,
this man.
nothing's happening after I have the baby. So you can do it before the baby. I'll give you 5 days. That's it. You have 5 days to shoot a movie, just like 2 weeks before the baby's due. And I was like, all right, that's the challenge. I got to make a movie in 5 days.
That's insane.
Dang.
I didn't know about the baby part.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And then Emily...
5 days
That's wild.
and a pregnant wife
Oh.
in
Yeah,
your
and
own
then
house.
Emily Baldoni came a couple days after the last night of shooting, and she was there just to shoot some of the scenes with her, just by herself. So she was in my house, and we shot a couple scenes of her, and she left my house at 1 a.m., and 2 hours later, my wife went into labor and had the baby in the house.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
You know,
The
you hear
camera
about
was
set
still-
babies, but that's
It's still there.
that's
Yeah.
new.
Yeah.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah. Aside from some of those challenges of dealing with a pregnant wife, Yeah. Well,
A home birth.
Yeah.
And a new baby, yeah.
A 5-day shoot.
Yeah.
The audacity of a 5-day shoot.
Yeah.
I love it.
Ridiculous.
My filmmaker brain is like, no.
Yeah. Well, mine too. After the first night, I was like, what was I thinking?
What am I doing?
Oh my god.
This is the worst idea ever. Because everybody, before you make your first movie, every filmmaker thinks that they're a genius, right? Like, if I could only make my movie, I could show the world just how amazing I am. And then after the first night, I was like, oh my God, like, this is not going to work. Why did I convince myself I could do this? It might be the dumbest thing I've ever done in my life.
I tricked real people into doing this project.
Seriously, that's how I felt. I was like, oh no.
I've been there, yeah.
And now I have 4 nights left. I'm like,
Right, and we're still going.
make
Yeah,
a whole
yeah, yeah.
movie. Yeah.
So, with the benefit of hindsight, is there anything that you would have done differently in the process?
No, the whole key is you don't have hindsight, because if you had hindsight, you'd never do it.
Mm.
So only by not knowing what it's going to be can you be so audacious to actually do it. And it's great. It's great not to know.
Embroider that on a pillow.
Wow. Yeah, I love that, Jim.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's so cool. So, we here at Time to Party discuss various time travel media, but, Coherence almost, it isn't necessarily time travel in the same way that Back to the Future or Bill and Ted is time travel, right? Like, more recently, it almost feels similar to Loki on Disney Plus. One might call it time bending, I guess. But how would you define the genre of Coherence?
Well, I just say it's a mind bender.
Mhm.
And if somebody needs more explanation than that, I say it's like a movie version of a Twilight Zone episode. So
That's a good way to put it.
it's not a time travel movie. It's a parallel worlds movie. It's a multiverse movie. Before multiverse just appeared everywhere.
Yes.
When we made it, it actually felt like we were, had the genre to ourselves for a while, but instantly all these other projects started using the same.
You were ahead of the curve, that's all.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know.
Genre defining in a lot of ways.
How do you feel about a lot of those multiverse movies now that have come after Coherence?
Oh, I enjoy them on various levels. I saw you guys did a whole multiple episode on Edge of Tomorrow, and I love that movie. That's really fun to watch, and it's just a Groundhog Day on steroids, really.
Right?
So yeah, I love that stuff, and if it's done well, I can forgive just about anything.
Awesome. Yeah, I
feel
definitely
the
want
same.
to touch on Twilight Zone in a second. But first, prior to your work on Coherence, you have a lot of art department credits on your IMDb. And you were a frequent collaborator of acclaimed filmmaker Gore Verbinski. You later worked on projects helmed by Mark Webb and Edgar Wright. So what did you learn from the filmmakers that you worked with that you still apply to your process today?
Well, I got out of school and I was instantly sort of put in a storyboard artist position, because I've always loved to draw ever since I was 2, and it was a way instantly to get to work beside directors, because as a storyboard artist, you just instantly are beside the director, talking to them, learning how they work. And I started on commercials and music videos, and what I noticed was that there was a certain kind of director who just threw all of their passion into those projects. Even if it was a 30-second commercial, they treated it like a very personal indie movie. They were just filling it with all of their love and passion and exploration. I worked for like Ben Stiller, I worked for Michael Bay, I worked for Gore Verbinski. I worked for all these up and coming directors when they were doing commercials, and just saw how hard they worked to make those 30 seconds amazing. And I never forgot that. And of course, you can't help but just hone your craft when you're seeing how these people are putting shots together and sequences together. And especially working with Gore, who's really, really a master of composition and scene structure. And if you ever turn the volume off and watch one of his movies, just visually, I think they're unparalleled.
Oh, yeah, 100% agree.
I'm gonna have to try that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've definitely done that before. Just visually absolutely compelling, and you can stick with it the whole time.
Yeah, and it goes back to classical composition and Renaissance
Yes.
rules of lighting and,
Mhm.
and composition. Caravaggio, the way he lights things in his paintings is still basically what DPs are trying to do today, hundreds of years later.
Mhm.
So I just learned kind of watching these people go just dig so deep into the core basics of what makes film beautiful.
As a writer, I really love the art of the short fiction, and the way that it allows you to force concision and force yourself to get to the point faster. Do you find that
Yeah.
working in commercials gave you a similar get to the meat of it attention to your filmmaking?
Always, and that every second counts.
Yeah,
'Cause you're
that
always
energy
trying to
really
cram-
shows in this movie.
Yeah, you're always trying to cram 48 seconds worth of story into a 30-second commercial. So you're just like, all right, how many frames can we cut here to get that one great shot, and how can we get that one beautiful moment in there too? And especially in the 90s and early 2000s when commercials still had big budgets. It's not really that way anymore. You don't really find beautiful commercials like there used to be, but there was a lot of attention paid into just packing it to the gills, with Michelle Gondry and Spike Jonze and everybody just making the most of it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so touching on your more recent work, your anthology series Shatterbelt just wowed South by Southwest. A friend of mine, former colleague Lex Bricuso, said that Patton Oswalt rips himself wide open in that role that will most likely cast him in a completely new light. But she also made a comparison to The Twilight Zone, which was something that you and I talked about back in 2013 about Coherence. What is it about that iconic franchise that inspires you in your work?
I I'm so in awe of what Rod Serling did, because he had no money for those episodes. And week after week after week, he churned out something cosmically thrilling, mind-bendingly compelling. It felt new but classic at the same time. And then here we are 50, 60 years later, still learning lessons from it. It's just such a lesson in what you can do if you put your mind to it and you don't have a gajillion dollars and you just have to make the ideas the forefront and make the make the characters and make their predicament the thing that pulls the audience in. And not all of them work, by the way. Not every Twilight Zone is a winner.
Yeah.
but he
Very
was
true.
doing it because he's churning them out week after week.
Did you watch the new one? Did you have any thoughts on that one?
The Jordan Peele.
Yeah.
I think, I mean, that one got a lot of flack, I think, because people were, they wanted it to be like the original Twilight Zone or whatever, but I don't think you can compare it. I don't think it's fair to put like Willie Nelson and Justin Bieber and Ariana Grande and call them the Beatles, because they're not the Beatles. They're amazing. All of those Twilight Zone episodes are done by amazing filmmakers and amazing actors and amazing writers, but it's not the Twilight Zone. And just like that group isn't the Beatles. So I just think people need to relax and say, look, they're still awesome in their own right. They might not compare to the original, but they shouldn't have to.
Right.
Right. That's a really good point.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love it when fans of something will get all up in arms just because like a new version of it exists. Like Ghostbusters comes to mind immediately. Just like people got so mad at Paul Feig.
Right. Right.
Unnecessary.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a tricky position to be in, to take the mantle of a show like that.
Yeah.
But I think they did everything they could.
Right.
It's really the pity of big IP, because you're sort of boxing yourself in by putting that name on it. I think about I, Robot, that Will Smith movie, which was a perfectly good Asimovian robot movie, but it wasn't I, Robot. I, Robot was a series of short stories,
Right. Exactly.
Right.
but they needed that title.
They needed the
just
title.
like they needed the Twilight Zone title to get it made and to get it funded. So that's just the game of how to get something made.
Yeah.
Right. 100%.
So one element of Twilight Zone, I think that made it so compelling for a lot of people was that there was always a little bit of magic. For Coherence, that's what Miller's Comet was for your characters. During our first conversation, you mentioned that all the science in the movie is sound other than the comet. So
did I really say
you
that?
did? So I wanted to touch on that.
How many drinks were we in at that moment?
We were in the theater bar.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, I don't know if it's sound. I am always tickled that I hear that it's, mentioned in some physics classes and whatever. I'm like, okay, well, it might illustrate some version of multiverse and some version of how, random choices can split. And, obviously Schrodinger's cat is an actual referenced thought experiment, but this is a fantasy, and that's why we used a comet, is basically to tell people, look, don't worry about that. Don't worry about the physics, people.
Right.
And we didn't want to have like an accident at the particle generator or whatever, the particle accelerator. Like, just don't worry about that.
Enough of a source of where the magic or the physics or the world comes from, the source material.
Yeah, because then you're claiming that it is perfect, that your logic is perfect, and then you're doomed because it's not.
Correct. Yeah.
I thought the reference to the Tunguska incident was particularly inspired because it we're immediately like, oh yeah, okay, big weird mystery, probably never know. Right. All right, push that to back of my head. Let's focus on this.
Exactly. This must be true. They're mentioning something from Wikipedia that I noticed.
I listened to a podcast about that once.
I'm from New Mexico. I'm like, Roswell landing. Sure, great, got it. Cool. That's what that is.
Oh, the beauty of having Nicholas Brendan play a character who was in a TV show once that people kind of remember was brilliant.
Yes. God, I made that note about like the idea that the actors have the same name as the characters and that this whole script is improvised. It's just like kisses enough of reality that it's like
beautiful.
Oh, but wait, like, is this the parallel timeline that we're watching this in? So like we get wrapped up into the world. So
exactly. Well, you have to be at a certain age to appreciate that, but that's exactly what that was. So that some of the audience that saw that would say, wait a minute, are we already in a branch? How are we in a different show?
Yeah, the meta-ness of it all was not lost.
Oh yeah. But yeah, the improv of the script is actually something I wanted to touch on because, with all this sciencey stuff, how much of that came from improv and how much of that was things that you had in your original treatment?
Well, I just told the actors to research it themselves. Like I told Emily, at some point in the night, you're going to tell the Tunguska event. Go Google that. And I wrote out a description of Schrodinger's cat for Hugo Armstrong's character, and I think he kind of nailed it. He kind of did a very nice summary of it without getting too bogged down. And there's people that come up to me sometimes. They're like, "Dude, the film is so heady, so sciencey," and I'm like, "Really? There's 45 seconds of Schrodinger's cat. Like 45 seconds, and really?"
But surely that was the thesis for the rest of the film.
You just needed a little touch on something so that the nerds could be like, "Okay, I got it. I know where we are."
Success.
Yeah. Thank you, Ansel. It was made for you.
Truly.
So, I mean, with all of these little meta touches and the touches of reality and things, are there any Easter eggs that people haven't picked up yet from Coherence that really like tickle you that you put in there?
There's so many that I don't even remember them. There's little things like people don't notice that. Some people do, but when she's the very first call that she's having when she's parking, she's parallel parking right off the beginning. She's like trying to insert herself in a parallel parking situation. So it's like little things like that.
Oh, I love that so much.
Lots of little things where you go, oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
Oh, that's so cool.
I also wonder, like, for me, I was really bothered by toward the end, they take a picture of Amir because they don't have any pictures of Amir. So they take out their camera and they take a picture. And I was like, how are they going to print it?
I wondered the same thing.
How are they going to print it?
When you first introduced that, I was like, oh my God, is there a dark room in this house? Are they...
No, it just implies that there's a battery operated printer, I guess. Which
Maybe.
I guess
sure.
That's a thing. I don't know.
Doable.
Yeah, 2013. We had photo printers. Yeah.
I think Polaroid specifically had one.
Battery operated printer. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I buy that.
Yeah.
Okay. You're gonna give us a pass. That's good.
Absolutely.
It happened off screen. Anything could have happened.
Exactly. Compressing time.
On the topic of art, I was curious about the paintings that you referenced in the credits. There are 3 paintings in the credits that you specifically call out being by one particular artist. Had you been like switching those out in the background or something, or are they just like your friend that you wanted to make sure their art got into?
That's from a famous, that's a famous artist, Joe Soren, and he allowed us to put his paintings prominently displayed, and so I thought it was only right to put him in the credits because I didn't want to have to take the paintings down. But I just love his work, and I think it just lends that house a very specific feeling to have those weird paintings visible.
Okay, awesome. So they were there the whole time in the whole.
Yeah, there's a lot of other things that are switching. Yeah, there's curtains that go up and down. There's Nicholas Brendan's shirt changes. There's a whole lot.
God, it's the subtlety. Like, even having seen this film multiple times, like, it's the subtleties where I'm like, wait a minute, that's not. Hold on. Which one is this? Team purple? Is this team? Like, where are we in the spectrum?
The flash sneak in of the oven mitt, like a full 15 minutes before we reveal the oven mitt thing, was chef kiss, perfect.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, okay. So that's where a lot of the effort went in, is like making sure all that stuff tracked. If someone wanted to watch it 10 times and go, wait, so if this is the oven mitt house, when those guys left, they wouldn't have put a ping pong paddle in the box. They would have put an oven mitt in it. And so 0% of the audience, I think, noticed it the first time.
Right.
But once they know to look for it, it's there, and it's very satisfying to go, oh, okay, the filmmakers actually made sure all that stuff lined up.
How did your script supervisor feel in this process?
I wish we had a script supervisor. Yeah.
Did you have one of those like murder boards with the yarn? Like,
no, it's just we shot in sequence, and it was just me. I had a camera, and then my DP had a camera, and that's it. That's the crew.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, there was a couple sound guys hidden in the back room, but there's no crew. You got to understand, there's no script and there's no crew.
Wow, that's tremendous.
Is that part of why you chose to do so many tight shots, or was that just like your intention from the beginning?
The tight shots evolved because when we were kind of testing out lenses and stuff, I realized all the wide stuff really felt more like a TV show. Felt like Friends. You know how when you watch an episode of Friends, you just see the whole set, and it just didn't feel cinematic to have wide shots of the room. And so you just have to make instant decisions when you've got 5 nights. So I just sort of locked on to the tighter shots, allowed us a more cinematic feeling. It also allowed, to avoid all the lighting stuff that was happening. We had these 2 big, the DP, to his credit, he was like, well, you have to light faces, like we don't have any lights, but you have to see their faces. So he put these lamps right on the table that are blocking faces. And so you have to like shoot through the lamps constantly. Oh. And if it's too wide, you're just going to see like 2 giant glowing lamps in every shot.
That's brilliant.
I love it. I'm in debt to him. He figured out a lot of stuff on the fly, and that was one of them.
May we all be blessed with great DPs.
Oh yeah,
100%.
That's Nick Sadler, and he had a lot of ideas. Like the first night, he was the one that said, we need to put the dining room table in the living room because there's more room to work. And at first I was like, what? Why why would we move the dining room table in the living room? But after 5 seconds of thinking about it, I was like, of course, has to go.
There's so many shots in the dining room. You need the bigger space. Yeah, totally.
And don't worry about it that you open the front door and there's a big dining room table right there. Like no one has complained about that.
I've seen enough Queer Eye to know that people actually do that. So
yeah,
you can do that, right?
Yeah, people do that. Bobby Burke has had to fix that in a lot of places.
We love you, Bobby Burke.
What are we doing here? What's with this dining room table in the front of the house? Amazing.
So do you think you would replicate this process of filmmaking again on another project?
Never. Never, Ben. It not only would I not do it, it can't be done. Nobody can do this. If you told Steven Spielberg, "Hey, you got 5 nights, you have $1 million, make a movie," he couldn't do it.
Right.
Nobody can do
5
this.
nights, $1 million, one house, and a pregnant wife who's
Nobody
soon.
can do this. What I did was like on a tightrope, on a unicycle, juggling with a cheetah eating my shoulder.
And it's all on fire.
Yeah. It can't be replicated ever, even by me.
Sure. Well, pulling off the impossible.
Absolutely.
Really.
Well, what's the saying from vaudeville? You can do any trick one time.
That's right.
I can only do the trick once.
Yeah. Then you learn your lessons.
Mm-hmm.
So I learned my lesson. I'm never doing that again. I'm so glad it worked out. But I feel bad because there's all these young filmmakers who come up to me. They're like, "Oh, you inspired me to make a movie just like how you did. I'm going to make it in 5 nights and I'm not going to write it." And I'm like, wow, that will not work out well for you. I'm so sorry.
Just grabbing their face. Oh, sweet summer child.
Yeah, look at me, child.
Stop.
Don't do what I
turn
did.
back.
Yeah. Save yourself. Just because I'm stupid doesn't mean you have to be.
Hey, but you can't argue with results.
It's true.
Truly. That's what it is. So.
I mean, we wouldn't be talking about this 10 years later if, it wasn't done so well.
Well, thus the gratitude that I have, because I realize how fortunate I am. I realize how hard it is to make a movie when you have 60 great people with you and you've taken a year to write the script. It's still hard.
Yeah.
Most of those movies aren't very good.
Single.
Yeah.
Man, if you think those aren't very good, just wait till you see what AI is cooking up.
Oh, God. Oh, don't go there.
Yeah,
We're not
no.
even going there.
Hold it together.
We're going to stay positive.
Oh, the darkness.
Yep.
Stay positive.
Turn away.
Not gonna cry.
So another thing that we do here at Time to Party is that we offer drinking and smoking rules to add another social element during a rewatch of a movie. Not all movies lend themselves perfectly to this game. Like Coherence is such a mind fuck that you're, trying to think about everything going on, right? But, mind fuck in a good way, obviously.
Yeah. With all due respect. Oh, mind fuck.
Totally.
But
that's the genre.
There it is.
We're in the ping pong house.
But if you were to come up with a rule for a frequently repeated character trait or a recurring bit, that would lend themselves to this game, what rules would you make?
Yeah. Well, every time someone says, "Oh my God,"
Ooh.
you have to take a drink.
Had that on my list.
Yeah. Is it really?
Yeah, I did. It's good. It was a good
It's so
repeating
fun
thing.
because it's unscripted.
And then every time the camera does one of those in-camera zooms that's like from The Office, which I can't stand. I can't believe it's in my movie. I can't believe there's an in-camera zoom that looks like The Office in my movie.
The audacity of the punch-in on that.
So there's a few of those. So you got to take a big hit or a double drink when that happens. And you got to yell out, "Zoom!
Zoom!
God damn it! God damn it, Jim! We're filmmakers, not doctors.
Yeah, exactly.
So we are
So that'll get you halfway.
awesome.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yes, that is incredible. Those are great rules. So we are coming up on time right now, but I really wanted to bring this up while I had you again, because I didn't think to ask you the first time we spoke. Mouse Hunt. I just wanted to know about your experience on Mouse Hunt, because I recently, like a couple months ago, got to see it at the Frida in Orange County on the big screen again for the first time in years, and it was just it holds up. It's incredible.
Why didn't you invite me?
I'm sorry.
What are you talking? I would love to see it on the big screen again. Oh my god!
Oh yeah, Super Yaki, a clothing brand that's now based here in LA. They do wild clothing based on cult classic movies, like all kinds of movies. Really, they just did one for what is it? Oh my god, Drive Away Dolls, Ethan Cohen's. Yeah, they just did shirts for that. But they had a movie marathon where it was 3 mystery movies in a row at the Frida, and Mouse Hunt was one of them.
That's awesome.
And it was so
I
good.
loved Mouse Hunt as a child.
Yes.
That was like the film.
Oh, same.
Yeah.
So
my dad still loves that movie more than I would have suspected.
So yeah, I just wanted to ask about your experience on it. And
it's very precious to me. You know, I did over 4,000 storyboards for that movie, and worked very closely with Gore, and was just so, maybe the first time I've had that satisfaction of seeing a scene that I either came up with or executed or drew and planned on a giant scale, with all the props and all the special effects and great actors, and just how satisfying that is to see it manifested that way. And it was kind of an out of body experience to see it, to be honest.
Oh, that's great. Another amazing movie that you worked on that still holds true in the hearts of audiences.
I love that. I got to show that to my son again. So he loves it.
How much longer until you show him Coherence?
He was going to go just a couple weeks ago. We sold out 4 screenings at the Alamo Draft House downtown Los Angeles.
I couldn't get a ticket.
And he was going to come, but remember it was raining that weekend. Remember how crazy the rain was? So my wife did not choose to bring him in the deluge. Mm-hmm.
Probably for the better.
So he has not seen it yet, but soon. And I'll say, You're basically in this. You're like right around the corner.
Yeah. I was gonna say, is he just upstairs for most of it?
I mean, my wife is like just around the wall, so he's there in her belly, just on the other side of every wall. Whenever you see them in the living room.
Perfect.
Yeah, I love that.
Amazing.
All right, so Jim, before we let you go, can you tell us about your upcoming work, things that we should look out for, where to find you on the internet, all that good stuff?
Well, you can go to shatterbelt.com right now and see the trailer to Shatterbelt. We've got 4 episodes shot that we did during the pandemic, kind of, again, very homemade, very handmade, just with my own crew of friends and family. And we're going to try to get that to the world in the next few months somehow.
Incredible. Yes.
And you'll recognize some of the cast from Coherence makes appearances in Shatterbelt.
I love that.
When you work with good people, you bring them back around.
Sure. And you'll love Patton Oswalt's episode. Abigail Spencer has a great episode. There's a lot of great actors in it.
I love it. Jim, this has been amazing to catch up with you after 10 years.
Yeah, I mean, you must have been 10 when we met, right, Ben?
It felt like it. I was definitely a baby in this industry.
Well, it's a pleasure to meet all of you or see you again, Ben, and thank you for this. And I hope you actually have the drinking game and it goes horribly awry.
We're drunk by like 15 minutes in. All the oh my gods.
Yep, they stack up. They come fast and furious.
Awesome, Jim. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, guys. See you next time.
Have a good one.
It's a pleasure.
That was amazing.
That was good, right?
That was
good, right? We also want to extend an epically large thank you to the award-winning Helena Handbasket, a.k.a. Caito Aase, a.k.a. my favorite rock star.
We are.
Who's a rock star?
All of us.
Yeah, and then another extra special thanks for Ansel Burch for putting up with my bullshit.
Right back at you.
Person and producer and co-host and things.
As for you party people, we are super appreciative of you as well.
Tune in next month when we'll be going over the greatest hits released just last month and featuring an interview with director for the film, Ned Benson. We are so excited. Buckle up, there's a lot more coming.
Until then, be excellent to each other.
And